The citadel of the Galactic Council floated above the neutral world of like a god's crown, an immense ring of obsidian alloy studded with light. Within its endless corridors, history itself was caged, guarded, and buried. There, beneath trillions of indexed records, in a sublevel few dared to enter, archivist of the open, a data seal older than his species, written language. He should not have. The file had been flagged forbidden, marked with glyphs of erasure and silence. But the archivist's instincts were stronger than his obedience. He whispered an apology to the sleeping ancestors of his kind and cracked the encryption. The hollow flare unfolded in the air before him. Lines of code rippled into records, records into images, and images into words. Words in a tongue the translator core stumbled over, as though the language itself resisted revelation. And then it resolved into a single name. Earth. Frowned. Earth was a minor world on the spiral arm, known for its loud music, its stubborn diplomats, and its unnerving habit of laughing in battle. Why would a simple frontier planet be hidden here, in a vault of ancient secrets? He dug deeper. Each layer resisted, encryption cascading like teeth on a trap. His fingertips trembled. The file didn't read like recent data. It was old, impossibly old, predating Earth's official entry into the census by tens of. His secondary heart stuttered as he realized what he was looking at. There was no original record of Earth in the Galactic Registry. The planet simply appeared in the archives 300 years ago, with its entry backdated, fabricated to look natural. Before that, nothing. A hole in history where a world should be. Recoiled, planets did not simply appear. Civilizations could be forgotten, burned, conquered, but a whole star system could not just slide into existence, unless someone wanted it that way. Archivist, came a voice from the shadows. Froze, the chamber was supposed to be sealed. Slowly he turned. Counselor, one of the outer chamber's oldest representatives, stood at the threshold. His crystalline body shimmered faintly in the archive's dim light. I see you have touched the file. Dropped to his knees, mandibles clicking in panic. Forgive me, I thought curiosity me. Stepped forward, his voice low and measured. You are not the first, and likely not the last. Curiosity is dangerous, archivist, particularly when it concerns Earth. The name hung in the air like a poisoned word. Extended a limb, touching the floating hologram. More layers blossomed open at his command. Unlike he knew the pathways, the hidden permissions. Images flashed, human fleets crude and rapid, leaping from nuclear fire to interstellar slipstream in the blink of a few centuries. Maps showing collapsed empires at the galactic rim, empires that fell just as Earth's ships began to sail. Whispered reports of ruins found on dead worlds, ruins whose angles matched human architecture. The counselor's glow dimmed. We buried this for a reason. The galaxy is not ready for the truth. Perhaps it never will be. Whispered, what truth? But did not answer. He closed the file with a gesture, locking it beneath layers of silence. This discovery leaves this chamber. You will forget what you have seen. If the Council were to panic, if the races learned Earth's secret too soon, chaos would drown us all. Dare to question, then why keep the file at all? For the first time, the crystalline counselor's voice trembled. Because one day, Archivist, Earth will remind us, and when they do, the galaxy must be ready to remember. The lights dimmed, as though the archive itself shuddered. Bowed, his mind's reeling with terror and unanswered questions. He understood one thing and one thing only. This was no ordinary world. Earth was a shadow draped in flesh, a riddle wrapped in time. And now the secret had stirred. The Council's grand assembly was rarely silent. On most days it thrummed with sound, a cacophony of alien voices, each demanding attention, each cloaked in pride and politics. But on this day, silence fell heavy as stone. At the center of the chamber, a projection pulsed, a timeline of Earth's ascent. It stretched only a few centuries, yet glowed brighter, denser, more violent than the long histories of most Council species. Counselor spoke, his crystalline body dim with unease. What you see here is not conjecture, it is fact. Earth rose from combustion fire to slipstream drive in less than 400 years. For comparison, the Empire required 5,000. The Coalition, 11. Even my own people, blessed with crystal memory, took 7. Humanity's ascent is not natural. A ripple of murmurs spread through the chamber. Ambassador of the coiled her serpentine body, her tongue flicking in agitation. So, what do you imply? That humans are deceivers? That they stole their technology? Facets glinted faintly. Stolen knowledge leaves trails, shared knowledge leaves fingerprints. Earth science is clean, self-forged, brutally innovative. They did not steal it, they remembered it. The words struck like a thunderclap. Impossible, growled General of his 6 eyes blazing. A young species cannot remember what they never lived. Are you suggesting reincarnation, genetic memory? He slammed his armored fist against the platform. Superstition. Yet unease gnawed at the assembly. They all had seen the records. Humanity's leaps were too sudden, too precise, as though each invention had been waiting in the dark, ready to be rediscovered. Counselor of the flicked his tendrils, his voice sharp. There is precedent. Ruins on IV were found bearing human architecture millions of years old. We dismissed them as coincidence, but now, his tendrils quivered. Perhaps not. Ambassador hissed, her golden eyes narrowing. Are you proposing that humans predate us all? The chamber erupted into shouts. Some laughed at the absurdity, others barked denials, while many shouted fear. The word ancient slithered from voice to voice, gathering weight, feeding panic. At the heart of the noise, the human delegation sat still. 3 ambassadors draped in dark blue, hands folded, faces expressionless. They did not argue, they did not defend, they only watched. And that silence spoke louder than protest. Counselor raised his limb for order. We must not leap into chaos, but nor can we ignore what the records suggest. Either humanity's development is an anomaly beyond precedent, or they are not what they claim to be. Both possibilities are dangerous. From the upper tiers, a shrill voice rang out. Dangerous to whom? It was Scholar of his 4 wings twitching nervously. If they are, they have deceived us all. If they are ancient, then why conceal themselves? What threat forced an entire species to erase its name from history? The question froze the chamber. Eyes compound, crystalline, luminous, multifaceted, turned toward the humans. At last, one of them rose. Ambassador Hale, Earth's senior envoy, stood with deliberate calm. His dark eyes scanned the council, unflinching, measuring. When he spoke, his voice was steady, almost too steady. Your data is impressive, he said. Your conclusions are imaginative, but humanity has nothing to confess. We are as we appear, newcomers to your galaxy, explorers, partners, nothing more. The denial was expected, yet the way he said it, calm, precise, unshaken, unsettled the chamber further. Counselor snapped. Then explain your timeline. Explain how your kind leapt light years of progress in the blink of history. His expression did not change. Perhaps necessity sharpens genius, perhaps survival demands speed, or perhaps some questions are better left unanswered. That final line slithered through the chamber like smoke. Suspicion thickened. The humans had not explained anything, they had only deepened the mystery. After the session adjourned, whispers filled the hallways. Delegates muttered about the impossible timeline, about ruins with human fingerprints, about a past rewritten. Fleets began quiet mobilizations. Merchants whispered about cutting ties with Earth. And everywhere one question spread faster than law could suppress. What is Earth hiding? In the privacy of their quarters, Ambassador Hale finally allowed his mask to crack. Alone, his calm melted into tension. He stared at the reflection of his own face in the glass of the viewport. They've started digging, he whispered. We can't stop them now. Behind him, his fellow ambassador, an older woman with silver hair and eyes shadowed by centuries of secrets, spoke softly. Then perhaps it's time, she said, to let them find what they fear. The stars beyond the viewport shimmered, cold and endless. Somewhere among them, memories lay buried like corpses beneath sand, waiting to rise. The winds of IV were sharp enough to strip metal bare. They howled across deserts of glass, sweeping over the bones of a long-dead city. Once it had been the capital of the Dominion, a civilization erased before the Council's birth. Now it was a graveyard, one that held secrets the galaxy was not ready to face. Professor, chief archaeologist of the Council's historical division, crouched beside a fragment of stone. His digits traced the carved lines, measuring their angles, testing their depth. He had studied the ruins of 100 species, but this was wrong. The fragment bore arches, windows, and stairs designed for a bipedal stride, not for the gliding slither of the or the coiled steps of the. It was not at all. It was human. "Professor," his assistant whispered, voice cracking in the comms. "You're seeing it too, aren't you?" Didn't answer. Instead, he stepped back, lifting his gaze across the city. The layout, the symmetry, even the worn grooves in the stone, everything screamed of human design. And yet these ruins were older than Earth's recorded history by at least 2 million years. It was impossible. He tapped his scanner. The device hummed, pulling data from the bedrock. The readout blinked in harsh glyphs, age 2.1 million cycles. His assistant swore softly. "Then it's true, they were here long before they should have been." Before could reply, his comlink crackled. The Council's field overseer cut in, voice taut. "Professor, secure your findings and prepare for immediate extraction. Do not transmit data. Do not speak to anyone outside the team." "Why?" demanded. His hearts raced. He had uncovered anomalies before, but none merited such sudden secrecy. "This is history. The galaxy deserves to know." "Professor," the overseer interrupted, lower now, almost fearful. "Orders from the Grand Assembly. You will return now." The line went dead. Stood among the ruins, the desert winds clawing at his robes. His assistant's eyes were wide, reflecting both awe and dread. "They're going to bury it again, aren't they? Just like before." Stared at the human-shaped doorways carved into walls older than any starship civilization. "Yes," he whispered, "but history doesn't stay buried forever." That night, as the team packed their equipment, a shadow moved between the ruins. One of the humans had come. Ambassador Hale, still wearing his formal council robes, emerged from the dust storm like a figure called by the dead. He did not belong on this excavation. Yet here he was, silent, grave, his boots crunching over stone that looked carved for his kind. His assistant stammered, "Ambassador, you shouldn't be here." Ignored him. He knelt beside the fragment had examined and ran his hand over its surface. His expression was unreadable, but his silence was heavier than the storm itself. "Tell me what you see, Professor," said at last. Hesitated. The truth tasted like forbidden fire, but he forced the words out. "I see humanity, written in stone 2 million years before humanity existed." His hand lingered on the ruin. For the briefest moment, something flickered across his face, recognition, grief, or memory. Could not tell. Finally rose, his eyes locked on the professor. "You must forget this." Anger flared. "Forget. These ruins prove everything the Council fears. Humanity was here long before any of us. Why hide it?" His voice was quiet, but it cut like a blade. "Because the truth isn't just dangerous to humans, it's dangerous to all of you." Before could demand an answer, turned and disappeared back into the storm, leaving only his footprints, human footprints, among the ruins. 2 days later, when the excavation team's ship lifted off, orbital satellites captured images they should not have. A fleet of unmarked vessels slipped from the edge of the system, vanishing into slipstream space. None bore human insignia, yet their design mirrored human engineering almost exactly. The Council analysts who reviewed the images later whispered the same thought. If humanity didn't build those ships, then who did? The galaxy shuddered with the implication. Humanity was no longer just a mystery, it was a ghost, a shadow cast across time itself. And if the shadows still moved, then perhaps they had never truly left. News traveled faster than slipstream. No encryption, no council decree, no military blockade could cage a secret once curiosity tasted blood. By the time Professor's excavation vessel returned to, whispers already ran like wildfire through the trade routes and back channels of the galaxy. The word was simple, heavy, poisonous. Humans. The first rumors said they had been here before, hidden in ruins older than empires. Others claimed they were, wearing a false history to infiltrate the council. Some whispered of forgotten wars, of fleets that vanished without trace when human explorers first set sail. On the neutral market moons, traders pulled their goods from human stalls. In the halls of power, generals redrew their maps with Earth at the center of every potential conflict. And in the lower cities, ordinary citizens began to riot. In the Grand Assembly, panic finally burst through diplomacy's brittle walls. Counselor slammed his tendrils against the platform, his voice sharp as broken glass. You cannot suppress this any longer. Half the outer colonies already believe the humans are ancients, predators who erased themselves to stalk us unseen. Others say they are parasites, feeding on our wars, waiting for weakness. We must act. General of the growled from the military tier. I say we strike preemptively. If Earth hides its true identity, it hides weapons. Better to scorch the nest before the swarm hatches. Ambassador of the Hist in outrage. And risk uniting humanity against us. They are already too quick, too resourceful. A war with them would bleed us dry. The chamber dissolved into chaos, shouts clashing like storm surf. Fear drowned reason. Above it all, Counselor tried to speak, his crystalline body dimming with unease. Restraint, we must. But his voice was smothered. The assembly no longer sought guidance. It sought certainty, and certainty demanded an enemy. Beyond the council walls, the panic spread sharper, wilder. On the mining world of, human engineers were dragged from their posts by mobs demanding they show their true faces. On the trade station, merchants painted wards against Earth's curse on their stalls, refusing to touch human goods. Even on itself, protesters gathered beneath the citadel, shouting in 1,000 alien tongues, "What is Earth hiding?" And through it all, the humans remained silent. Their ambassadors walked the corridors calm, composed, unflinching in the face of rage. They neither confirmed nor the accusations. Their silence terrified more than any answer could. Professor, summoned before a closed council session, felt the weight of 1,000 eyes as he presented his findings. The ruins on IV are real. The architecture is unmistakably human, yet the dating exceeds 2 million cycles. This is not fabrication, this is fact. A ripple of horror ran through the chamber. Counselor demanded, then humanity is ancient. Why do they hide it? Why do they play at youth? His voice wavered. I do not know. But when I confronted their ambassador, he warned that the truth is dangerous, not to them, but to us. General's growl deepened. Then it is decided, humanity is a threat, the fleets must mobilize. No, said sharply, for once raising his voice above the storm. If they are what they seem, then striking first may doom us all. But reason was already slipping from the chamber. That night in the shadows of the citadel, the first assassination attempt was made. A squad of mercenaries hired by an unknown faction breached the human embassy, weapons primed. They expected a soft target, diplomats, unarmed. They did not expect the precision with which the humans defended themselves. No chaos, no panic, every movement rehearsed, every shot efficient. The mercenaries fell in minutes. And though the humans called for medical aid for the survivors, one fact spread like fire among the security reports. The humans had fought like soldiers, not diplomats, soldiers. By the end of the week, the galaxy was splitting. One faction called for alliance, better to have humans as protectors than enemies. Another demanded annihilation before humanity's mask slipped further. The rest vacillated, paralyzed by fear. The council fractured, trust unraveled. The galaxy teetered on the edge of a war no one wanted, but everyone feared. And in the quiet halls of the human embassy, Ambassador Hale studied the reports with grim patience. They panic because they do not know, he murmured. Beside him, the silver-haired ambassador gazed out at the riot fires below. And if they knew, she said softly, their panic would burn the stars themselves. The question neither voiced hung in the air like smoke. When the truth comes, will the galaxy unite behind humanity, or burn to ash fearing it? The Grand Assembly chamber had never felt so much like a courtroom. Delegates filled the tiers in silence, their voices swallowed by the weight of expectation. Across the central floor, beneath the endless dome of stars, 3 human ambassadors stood at the podium reserved for the accused. Their blue robes were immaculate, their posture perfect, their expressions unreadable. It was Ambassador Hale who faced the council's gaze. His dark eyes moved slowly from one delegate to the next, calm in the presence of hundreds who wanted his kind condemned. Counselor of the began the questioning, his tendrils coiling tight. Humanity's timeline is a lie. Archaeological evidence proves your presence in this galaxy predates your official record by millions of cycles. You will explain. Hale inclined his head, his voice steady. We are, as our records claim, recent entrants, explorers of new horizons. If ruins exist that resemble ours, then coincidence must be greater than we imagined. The chamber hissed with outrage. General slammed his armored fist against the railing. Coincidence does not build fleets. Coincidence does not explain your leaps in science faster than any civilization in history. You remember things you should not know. Still, Hale's expression did not falter. Humanity adapts, perhaps faster than others, that is all. Ambassador of the leaned forward, her golden eyes burning. Your silence condemns you, human. If you were innocent, you would offer proof. Instead, you offer nothing but stillness. Why? For the first time, a flicker passed across Hale's face. Not guilt, not fear, but something colder. His voice lowered, quiet enough that every delegate leaned in. Because some truths, he said, are heavier than silence. A shiver rippled through the chamber. The questioning dragged on. Every demand for answers met with composure, every accusation met with denial without denial. The humans did not defend themselves, they did not attack. They simply endured as though they had rehearsed this trial for centuries. At last, Counselor took the floor. His crystalline body glimmered faintly, but his voice carried unusual weight. Ambassador Hale, the Council cannot endure ambiguity. Already fleets mobilize, riots spread, economies fracture. The galaxy teeters. If you persist in silence, you may trigger the very war you claim to avoid. For a long moment, Hale said nothing. His 2 fellow ambassadors watched him with the stillness of statues, as though awaiting a signal. Then Hale spoke, not to defend, not to reveal, but to warn. You wish for clarity, you wish for truth, but truth has a price. Do you know why ruins exist that echo our design? Do you know why our minds leap faster than reason should allow? Do you know why our hands build weapons with such dreadful ease? The chamber leaned in. At last, perhaps, the human mask would crack. Hale's eyes swept across the assembly. Because once, long ago, we built them before. And when we were finished, when our empires stretched across the stars, something came to unmake us. A silence heavier than vacuum filled the chamber. General snarled, "You expect us to believe this fable." Hale's voice was quiet, unflinching. Believe or don't, it makes no difference. Humanity does not remember because it studies. Humanity remembers because it survives. Gasps rippled through the delegates. Survivors, ancients, shadows of a war forgotten. But before the assembly could press further, Hale's fellow ambassador, an older woman with silver hair, placed a hand on his arm, a silent signal. He inclined his head and fell silent. Counselor hissed in frustration. You speak in riddles, human. If you are truly survivors of some phantom war, then prove it. Show us the threat. Show us the enemy. Hale only shook his head. You would not wish to see them, not yet. The session ended in uproar. Some shouted for war, others pleaded for alliance. Many sat frozen, unable to decide whether to fear humanity or to beg for its protection. Outside the chamber, riots intensified. Armories opened, fleets scrambled, and in the shadows, whispers grew sharper. If humanity is truly ancient, then they are not simply allies. They are guardians or conquerors or both. Inside the human embassy, Hale stood alone at the viewport, watching the fleets move across the stars. They are asking the wrong questions, he murmured. The silver-haired ambassador approached, her voice a whisper. And when they ask the right ones, Hale's gaze hardened. Then the galaxy will finally understand what it fears. The council chamber had scarcely recovered from the trial when the emergency convocation was called. No one knew who had summoned it. No one admitted responsibility, but every delegate arrived. They came not for law, not for diplomacy, but because the air of the galaxy itself seemed charged with dread. At the center, the human ambassadors stood once more. This time, their stillness carried no defiance. It carried inevitability. Counselor opened the session. His crystalline body was dimmed to a muted glow, the mark of one who feared the words he must speak. Delegates, the evidence is clear. Humanity's history is a shadowed one. Their silence has sown panic across the stars, and yet, tonight we will hear them in full. He turned toward Ambassador Hale. The human's dark eyes reflected the holographic stars that bloomed above the chamber dome. He did not wait for permission. "You want answers," Hale said. His voice was steady, calm, but beneath it lay a gravity that silenced the restless assembly. "Then listen and know this. The humans you see before you are not young. We are not newcomers to your galaxy. We are survivors." The chamber stirred. Hale raised his hand and the stars shifted, rearranging into a spiral galaxy. With a gesture, it shattered into fragments of flame and ash. "Millions of cycles ago, long before your empires rose, we ruled here. Humanity's fleets stretched across the arms of this galaxy. Our science burned bright. Our dominion was vast. And then," his voice fell into a razor whisper, "they came." The hologram changed. Shadows moved across the stars, vast shapes without form, devouring light itself. The counselors recoiled. Some cried out, their translators stumbling to capture the alien terror in Hale's tone. "We called them the Extinguishers," Hale said. "Not ships, not species, something older, something born in the void between galaxies. They came not to conquer, but to erase civilizations, memories, names, entire star systems torn apart until nothing remained." Counselor lashed his tendrils in protest. "Superstition, phantoms, you speak of myths to cloak your deception." Hale's gaze cut through him. "And yet your own ruins echo with our hands. Your own history bears scars you cannot explain. Empires gone without trace, anomalies in your archives. You call them collapses. You call them mysteries. We call them survival." The hologram shifted again. Fleets of human warships appeared, blazing with fury, hurling light against the shadows. "We fought them. We won, if you can call it that, but the price was everything. Our fleets burned, our worlds shattered, our people scattered to ash. Humanity was broken, nearly erased. We hid ourselves. We buried our memory. We placed our survivors on a quiet world, Earth, where we could begin again in ignorance." Silence crushed the chamber. The delegates stared at the projection of Earth, small and blue, cradled in the stars. Counselor hissed, her golden eyes wide. "You expect us to believe you erased yourselves, that you consigned your children to ignorance of their greatness." Hale's voice softened. "Because to remember was to invite despair. To remember was to invite the Extinguishers to notice us again. But we could not bury it completely. Fragments remained, shadows of memory. That is why we rise too quickly. That is why our hands know weapons before they know peace." General growled, struggling to mask the unease in his eyes. "Then if you are telling the truth, the Extinguishers could return." Hale did not flinch. "They will return." The words fell like a blade across the chamber. Chaos erupted. Delegates shouted, some demanding proof, others crying for alliance, still others calling for humanity's destruction before the so-called Extinguishers arrived. Struck the floor with crystalline limbs, the sound ringing like thunder. "Order, order." But there was no order left. Fear had broken the assembly. Through it all, the three human ambassadors stood calm, as though they had expected nothing less. Finally, Hale raised his hand once more. His voice cut clean through the storm. "Whether you believe or not, the truth remains. Humanity remembers because we must. We are not your enemy. But when the shadows come again, you will find you have only two choices. Stand with us or stand in the ashes alone." The chamber froze. And in that frozen silence, a new terror bloomed in every delegate's mind. Not whether humanity lied, but whether humanity told the truth. The council chamber did not empty quietly. Delegates spilled into the corridors shouting, their voices thick with fear. Some rushed to transmit emergency orders to their fleets. Others screamed of betrayal, of extermination, of humanity's deceit. By the time the humans returned to their embassy, the galaxy outside had already begun to tear itself apart. On the mining world riots consumed the streets. Crowds demanded human workers be expelled or executed before the so-called extinguishers arrived to finish what Earth had begun. Shops with human signage were smashed, their owners dragged into the dust. The Council's envoys, once symbols of order, were now hunted. On the border fortress of Prime, the coalition declared martial law. Their military leaders broadcast a chilling decree. No human vessel shall pass our gates. Any violation will be answered with fire. Elsewhere, the opposite reaction took root. Smaller civilizations, the traders, the scholars, rushed emissaries to Earth, begging for alliance. They had no fleets strong enough to resist cosmic predators. Better to kneel before humanity than burn alone. Every star, every station seemed to tremble under the same dread. If the humans spoke truth, the galaxy itself was on borrowed time. In the Citadel's war chamber, chaos reigned. General stood over his voice a thunderous snarl. "We cannot wait. Humanity admits it remembers weapons. It admits it fought these extinguishers. What they hide now may be worse than the threat they describe. We strike Earth before they unleash it." Counselor lashed his tendrils, agreement radiating through his body. If they are truly survivors, then their technology still lies buried. To allow them time is to court annihilation. Humanity must be neutralized. Raised his crystalline limbs, his glow faint with fatigue. And if you are wrong, if the extinguishers are real, then humanity is the only race that has ever fought them and lived. To destroy them would be suicide. The chamber erupted. Words became weapons. Threats became promises. The council fractured not by borders but by belief. One faction demanded extermination. Another begged for alliance. A third chose paralysis, hoping silence would make the storm pass. No decision came, only division. Meanwhile, in the shadows beyond official channels, blood was already being spilled. The second assassination attempt came 2 nights later. This time, it was no band of mercenaries but an elite strike team, equipped with cloaking rigs and council-issue weapons. They breached the human embassy with surgical precision, expecting to find diplomats still hiding behind politics. What they found instead were guards in plain clothes, human guards who fought with chilling efficiency. In seconds, the halls became a battlefield. Shots seared the walls, blades flashed in the dark. But the humans fought as if they had done it before, 1,000 times before. When the dust cleared, the strike team was broken. The embassy stood, and the humans once again had taken no casualties. The Council's own intelligence networks whispered in fear. The humans had known the assassins would come. They had prepared. Ambassador Hale sat in the embassy's central chamber, reviewing the reports. His jaw tightened as each message came in. Riots on the outer colonies, trade blockades strangling Earth supply lines, fleets shifting dangerously close to Sol's borders. "They are turning on us faster than expected," he said quietly. The silver-haired ambassador stood at his side, her gaze sharp. "Fear always moves faster than truth. The moment we revealed the extinguishers, we handed them a choice, trust us or destroy us, and too many prefer destruction." Hale exhaled slowly. "Then we must be ready." Eyes flickered, ancient weariness behind them. Ready for what? Hale turned to the viewport where distant fleets shimmered like predators circling prey. For the moment when they realize fear will not save them, only we will. Across the galaxy, the spiral trembled. The Empire formally declared humanity a species of deception and moved fleets toward Terran space. They swore to strike first, before Earth could reveal its hidden arsenal. At the same time, desperate smaller species pledged loyalty to Earth, praying their alliance would shield them. Civil war did not yet exist, but the galaxy stood one spark away. And as whispers spread of the extinguishers stirring once more in the void beyond the galactic rim, one truth settled over every heart. Whether saviors or conquerors, humanity had forced the galaxy to choose. And soon, the stars themselves would burn for that choice. The galaxy burned with indecision. Borders tightened, fleets mobilized, and broadcasts of fury spread like wildfire across the stars. Entire species spoke only of Earth, whether to kneel, to strike, or to hide. The council fractured into factions that no longer trusted each other enough to share the same chamber. And through it all, humanity remained silent. Ambassador Hale stood in the Terran embassy's war room, listening to the chaos unfold across encrypted channels. The room was dark except for the glow of the star maps. Fleets shifted like restless predators, drawing closer and closer to Saul. Behind him whispered, "It is happening again." Hale did not look back. Yes, exactly as before. Far across the spiral arm, the Empire launched the first strike. A small Terran freighter was obliterated on the border of neutral space, its crew vaporized before their distress beacon could finish transmitting. This broadcast was clear. Humanity is a contagion. We will cut it out before it spreads. The declaration triggered chain reactions across the stars. Dozens of powers moved their fleets into combat readiness. Others scrambled to sign alliances, many with Earth. Still others sealed their borders, hoping to survive the storm by pretending neutrality. The galaxy balanced on the razor edge of civil war. In the Citadel, the last desperate council session convened. No ambassadors were summoned, no translators prepared. Only the leaders themselves sat in the chamber, each one flanked by armed guards. Counselor, his crystalline form dim, spoke first. "We are collapsing. Humanity has fractured us. Every fleet moves against its neighbor, and still we have not decided, are they saviors or deceivers?" General spat his answer. "They are deceivers. They know the extinguishers never existed. They invented this myth to keep us paralyzed. I will burn Earth myself if the Council cannot." But Ada hissed sharply, silencing him. "And if the extinguishers do exist, then your fire will be the spark that damns us all. Humanity has fought them before, you have not." The chamber erupted, shouts, threats, no resolution. And then silence as the great dome flickered to life. A signal overriding every system, a transmission from Earth itself. Ambassador Hale's face filled the chamber, projected larger than life. His expression was calm, but his eyes carried something heavier, like a man delivering a funeral eulogy. "Delegates of the galaxy, you have demanded truth. You have demanded proof. And though we wish to spare you, the time for silence is over." Behind him, the stars unfolded into a live feed. Not projection, not archive, real-time transmission. The galaxy's edge appeared, a stretch of cold void beyond the spiral arm. At first it was empty. Then the shadows moved. Shapes vast as moons, darker than space itself, sliding between stars. Where they passed, light dimmed like fire smothered under water. And they were not alone, thousands, tens of thousands, stretching across the black like a tide without end. The chamber gasped as one. Even the warlike fell silent. Hale's voice cut through the rising panic. "The extinguishers have awakened. They are already here." Chaos erupted. Councils scrambled to signal fleets, commanders screamed orders, entire empires erupted into terror. But Hale's face remained on every screen. "You wonder why humanity remembers, why our hands build weapons faster than peace, why our minds leap beyond reason. It is because we are forged for this. Every child of Earth carries fragments of the old war in their blood, memories not of knowledge but of survival. And now you will see why." His tone sharpened, steel beneath the calm. "Make no mistake, we are not asking for alliance. We are not begging for trust. We will fight the extinguishers with or without you. But if you wish to live, if you wish your children to see another dawn, you will stand with us. Or you will vanish forgotten as so many once did." The broadcast ended. In the chamber, silence lingered longer than fear. The delegates stared at one another, each face haunted by the same truth. There was no more time for doubt. Outside, fleets shifted uneasily, not toward Earth, but toward the rim where the shadows grew larger with every passing hour. In the embassy approached Hale, her voice low. "You have given them no choice." Hale's gaze never left the stars. "No, choice is what destroyed us the first time. This time they will choose survival or they will choose extinction, nothing else. The stars flickered. A shadow larger than a world slid across the feed, blotting out entire constellations. For the first time in a million years, the galaxy understood what it truly feared. Not humanity, but what humanity had survived.